I'm back. I never left. I'm great. I'm good. I serve the greater good. I'm cute, but that's not important.
Ha ha ha.
The Dog of Wisdom. It's a YouTube series with 2 videos. They're both pretty short, so I don't feel the need to go in depth explaining what they are. If you haven't seen them, it'll take you a total of 3 minutes. If you're anything like me, the first time you saw these videos, you might have just thought they were stupid videos. For that matter, you could hardly be blamed. For goodness sake, these characters speak in silly, nondescript voices. How could they be meaningful?
Hababadagada.
Well, the voices are undoubtedly funny. Have you ever tried doing the voice? It's fun. Ba, ba. Habadadabadaka. Habababada. Bwah. It's kind of dangerous to start because once you start, you can't stop. Oh gosh, it's just like the Minions. I'm basically a Minions fan. I'm a boomer! Seriously though, the videos tell a little story that's intensely human. Or should I say, intensely dog? Our story starts out with Pepper flying a small plane. Pepper flies alone, entirely self-satisfied. He addresses the audience in what could be considered an aside. He shows no real need or worry, as he rests in the facts that he's cute and that everyone loves him. Pepper exhibits normal behavior for a dog by barking.
Ba 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 ba.
We're left with the impression that Pepper has no real need or want for anything. He's at complete peace with the world, and the presence of an audience does not deter him from doing exactly what he feels like doing in a given moment. The scene changes though as Pepper sees another dog floating through the air. It's clear that this is an unusual occurrence. Pepper even refers to the sky as his own, implying that he's not used to sharing the infinite horizon of flight. He challenges this intruder who greets him as he approaches. This other dog doesn't take a defensive stance but simply introduces himself.
Ha ha.
He is the Dog of Wisdom. Although his role in life should be obvious by his name, he makes it clear that he dispenses wisdom. In the real world, wisdom is gained through experience, so when the Dog of Wisdom says that his wisdom comes from his wisdom tooth, our expectations are subverted ever so slightly. Pepper recognizes the dog in front of him as a source of wisdom, and he makes no apology for his previously aggressive behavior, but immediately seeks out the wisdom that this dog has to offer.
Ha. Hadabadaga.
Of course, the Dog of Wisdom is prepared for this encounter. The wisdom he gives is as follows.
Habababa. Hawawawa. Ha.
If your ball is too big for your mouth, it's not yours. In a literal sense, this wisdom is purely for dogs. Humans do not consider ball ownership in the same fashion. Very few humans beyond the age of 3 have a habit of putting a ball in their mouth. For that matter, putting a ball in your mouth is a silly and unsanitary activity which doesn't pertain to ownership in any sense. For a dog, it's pretty straightforward. It creates a clear hierarchy of whether a ball is worthwhile to fetch. So this is kind of silly and pointless, right? Wrong! Let's dive a little deeper into the statement. The ball as a metaphor works quite well. If a ball is too big for a dog's mouth, it can't take possession of it in any meaningful way. Sure, the dog can push the ball around, but it can't claim it. The application becomes apparent. That which cannot be meaningfully integrated into your life is not for you to possess. If you love someone, but they don't love you, they are not yours. They never were. If you fail at a job interview, it's not a defeat. The fact that you weren't able to attain the job means that it was never meant to be. Wherever life takes you, you must learn contentment because your mouth is only a certain size. Pepper acknowledges the wisdom is good. In this way, the Dog of Wisdom has fulfilled his purpose. He accepts the compliment quickly. It's no surprise that the wisdom should be accepted, but Pepper's appreciation is duly noted. The Dog of Wisdom knows better than to let the conversation die at this point. He takes a bit of a risk by offering up one of his knock-knock jokes. Telling a joke with a person you've just met is a little bit of a risk since you don't have a good read on their sense of humor. The Dog of Wisdom shows confidence and proceeds anyway. Pepper responds in kind with a standard retort for a knock-knock joke.
Hadadet.
The Dog of Wisdom's joke calls back to the wisdom he gave earlier, maintaining the continuity of the conversation.
Ba. Badaga.
The punchline of the joke is also a bit of a risk. The Dog of Wisdom starts singing Believe It or Not by Joey Scarberry.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free.
Replacing the word believe with ballieve. He's going out on a limb with a pop culture reference that may not be received well by Pepper.
Badada badada
Aside from being a goofy joke, it's a reference to an older TV show. The show is The Greatest American Hero, a show about a character named Ralph Hinckley, who's a special ed teacher who has a chance encounter with aliens that give him superpowers. It's a bit of a deeper cut and as such may be inaccessible to Pepper. However, not only does Pepper get the reference, but he starts singing along on the second line. The joke was a resounding success, and the connection between the two characters is solidified right then and there. So, what does this do as a story? We see two characters at complete peace with themselves. The interaction we see between them is an idealized one. The Dog of Wisdom states his purpose, and Pepper takes interest in what he has to offer. The wisdom is accepted, and a joke bonds them together. Meeting new people is tough. You can't always get a good read on them. It's usually difficult to express yourself or connect in any meaningful way. It can be a ritual of going through the motions, pretending to care about a person that you haven't connected with authentically. A more skilled conversationalist might take jabs at things to connect on, but even that has its limitations. It only works to the extent that things in common can be found.
Hello, you have a beautiful family here. I'm actually looking to meet my family. Okay.
Pepper and the Dog of Wisdom have a natural connection, though. Their interaction doesn't have a hint of disinterest, and they develop a camaraderie through sincerity. They end the conversation through singing together, which is a beautiful bonding moment. It's natural and beautiful for people to sing together, but in most cases we feel this fear about showing that sort of vulnerability and would only do it with our closest friends. Pepper meets the vulnerability of this joke perfectly by joining in. The Dog of Wisdom drives the conversation, and Pepper supports it perfectly. He was the subject of the video, and as such we see the Dog of Wisdom through his eyes. The video ends before we see any goodbyes or these characters going on their way. Perhaps they kept hanging out for hours or even days. Perhaps they went on their way directly after the video. The Dog of Wisdom seems not to be a traveler, so it's likely that Pepper went on his way. Now, if that's all there was, I probably wouldn't have made a video. I've already unpacked plenty, but there's a whole other video to discuss. In The Dog of Wisdom 2, Pepper starts out addressing the audience directly again. The self-confidence and self-assuredness never left. Pepper sets up that he's doing something important and lets the audience wonder what he's up to. Pepper is traveling this time in a blimp, a vehicle which has the opposite effect of the tiny plane that he was flying in the last video. Pepper quickly lets us in on his holy mission. He's intentionally seeking out wisdom. Where he once stumbled across the Dog of Wisdom, this time he's seeking him out. Pepper continues in his self-satisfied barking as he presses on in his adventure. Unexpectedly, the Dog of Wisdom appears, but this time Pepper's in too large of a vehicle to notice. We see a potentially gruesome event as Pepper runs him over. We're left to wonder what happened and fear the worst. Pepper's blimp lacks convenient access to the roof, and as such he must jump up. Initially he misses, and we're left to wonder if this mission has been a complete disaster. We still don't know the status of the Dog of Wisdom, and Pepper has potentially fallen to Earth. Quickly though, Pepper recovers and is able to stabilize this time around. Pepper immediately recognizes the Dog of Wisdom. He shows an excitement that shows that he cares deeply about the Dog of Wisdom and is excited to see him. It's clear that although they connected well, getting to see the Dog of Wisdom is a special occasion. It's unclear whether they've met at other points in time. The Dog of Wisdom greets Pepper enthusiastically. We see that he's not harmed at all. More than that, the Dog of Wisdom has a full picnic spread with a ball for each of them as well. This contributes to the spiritual ether of the Dog of Wisdom. Even though Pepper ran him over, he doesn't get upset in any way. Instead, he shows hospitality. Pepper rushes over, excited to see him, and it's clear to see why. The whole reason he went on this journey was to see the Dog of Wisdom. He values both the wisdom and the friendship. Pepper can barely contain his excitement, and it's hard not to empathize. It's been 7 years since we've seen these two interact. As Pepper calms down, he asks for wisdom from the Dog of Wisdom, who gives it away freely. This time it isn't just an applicable tidbit. The Dog of Wisdom offers up the meaning of life.
Happy happens.
You cannot fetch happy. It doesn't come when it's called. Happy happens. The fact that the Dog of Wisdom pronounces the words happy happens makes them really stick. Pepper responds in kind with pronounced words. Happy has to happen?
Happy had to happen.
This time, Pepper is challenging the Dog of Wisdom. Not that he doesn't believe it, but he repeats to process and clarify. The Dog of Wisdom doubles down.
It Hasta.
Pepper is interested and accepts the wisdom but lacks the knowledge of how to apply it. He responds with a question that at the very least I resonated with by asking, how?
How?
The Dog of Wisdom clarifies his meaning of life, when you serve the greater good.
Have a fondest of wonderful.
Here, the wisdom speaks for itself. As an audience member, you may agree or disagree with his meaning of life, but he makes a compelling case. Most everyone is chasing happiness, but how many people achieve it? The wisdom here is beautiful because it's not a simple answer. It's not a clear path, but rather a goal that can be interpreted in a way that suits the listener and inspires them to do good. The way it's spoken really made it stick out to me.
Happy happens. Happy had to happen. It has to.
I actually think about this a lot. I've often felt that when I'm the happiest, serving the greater good has played a part in that. It's a reminder that pushes me towards the best life possible. But doing good doesn't make you happy. Happy has to happen. There's not a direct correlation between input of righteousness and happiness. If you serve the greater good, though, it becomes the conduit through which happy happens. The wisdom also acknowledges Pepper's earlier statement that he serves the greater good. In a sense, the Dog of Wisdom validated Pepper's journey and told him that he's on the right path. Pepper acknowledges that he got what he came for, and the Dog of Wisdom seems glad that the message connected.
But.
This time, though, Pepper has a joke, establishing reciprocity between the two of them.
Hatbada.
It's another knock-knock joke, this time of a slightly different nature.
Hop hop. Hop Monica.
It doesn't fit under the theme of dog-related things or relate to wisdom. The Dog of Wisdom awaits the punchline eagerly.
Monica ha. Monica.
It turns out that Pepper has brought a physical prop to the joke. The Dog of Wisdom lets the joke set in, and then the camera cuts back to Pepper, who starts playing the harmonica. They close out in a similar fashion to the first video, with Pepper playing the harmonica and the Dog of Wisdom joining in by singing as soon as he figures out the rhythm of the song. It's another beautiful moment of connection. These two characters get a total of 3 minutes of screen time, but so much happens between them. They have a genuine and beautiful chemistry. Story is often driven by conflict, but there is limited conflict in this story. Instead, it connects with us as a fantasy. It's friendship condensed into a minute. Making connections with new people is difficult, and when we find that rare connection that happens instantly, it's a beautiful thing. This two-part series is art that captures one of the best parts of life, and for that reason I've watched it over and over again. The wisdom that the Dog of Wisdom offers is helpful. There's something almost spiritual about these videos. But it's actually just funny because they do the voices.
Hababa. Hababa da gada.
Ba. Ba. Ba ba ba. Hapatatapataka.
Wa. Ha.
Hapatatapataka.